ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose. Ever-evolving digital.
All right. Well, welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI. I have a guest I'm really excited to talk to today, man, by the name of Ian Harris, who's got a tremendous amount of podcast knowledge. And so I'm hoping to learn something along with you as we're listening. So, Ian, welcome to the show and give us a little bit more of an introduction.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
Well, I've been in technology for many years and enjoyed building different technology platforms, helping companies build their products, build their technology products. And I think we're in an exciting time right now where we can actually use the power of AI and technology to increase our ability to do great marketing and authentic marketing in ways that we really had no chance of doing even a year ago. I think even a year ago, everything has changed in the way we do marketing because of the new tools we have available. So I'm very excited to talk to you about that today, Emmanuel.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's a phenomenal time for us as marketers to be able to leverage all this like real-time data, and the number of data points that we have access to is, as a marketer, phenomenal. As a private citizen who's moving around the world is a little bit it's a little bit scary. I had a show where we were talking and it's somewhere between 3,000 and 7,000 data points on every end user. So
that's phenomenal. That's a lot of data. That's a lot of data.
It is, and sometimes I think, well, maybe that's more than I even know about myself, right? Like
I don't know if I know that much about myself.
But so one of your companies is called Pulse Podcasts, and you guys have been doing podcasts for a while now, at least 10 years. Am I correct?
Yeah. We've been doing lots of podcasts for a long time, and it's been a fun journey being able to provide podcasting services to different companies, and that's been I think it's been what's the best way of describing it? It's hard work. It's actually hard work. Podcasting is really, this podcasting is hard work. And I think what's happened over the last year that's really inspired us in new ways is that we've gone from something that is a tremendously time-intensive task to something that now you can do much more efficiently, and that enables us to reach new markets. So that's kind of the theme that I was interested in exploring with you today. I mean, you've been doing a podcast for a while. You understand that it's not just a case of you don't just have to find a guest and sit and chat. You have to research. You have to understand what you're talking about. You obviously have a series that you're stringing together. You're trying to arrange guests in certain orders. Then once you've even once you've actually recorded the podcast, then you have to get someone to edit it. You have to write a description for it. You've got graphics. You're doing video as well, so it's even more complex to try and pull it all together and get a decent product. And then the concept of actually getting a podcast out, even an audio podcast on a regular basis, is a really time-consuming, intensive task. So just if you're a marketing in charge of marketing or have a marketing responsibility in a company, and someone said, you know what, we should do a podcast. That's a great idea. And it is, in fact, a great idea. And the reason why podcasts are a good marketing tool is that unlike a lot of forms of reach towards our customers, podcast is a really personal connection. So you're actually reaching an individual who is listening to information about the topic that your brand wants to talk about. So let's say it's insurance, for example. What about in fact, it's a really interesting niche, technology for the insurance industry. So very niche area.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's say that you're really interested in talking to people about this particular area. This is your specialty. Maybe you do consulting or something like that in this area, and you want to reach customers that are interested in insurance technology. Okay, cool. Now you could decide to do a website. That's pretty standard. You need a website these days. And you might, what else might you do? You might do some social media. That's a good idea. Let's do some social media.
Yeah, you're going to have a LinkedIn profile, right?
You need a LinkedIn profile. You need some Facebook posts. You need some probably some Twitter stuff going on. But the trouble with all those things, all those sort of social media channels, is that you really are beholden to some other algorithm that's deciding what your customer, what your client is going to see on a day-to-day basis. And if you pay some money, you can get to the top of the queue. Great. But nevertheless, you're still trying to fight all the other set of information out there that's trying to reach these people as well. So, okay, what else can we do? What about let's do a newsletter. Okay, we can finally grab the emails over conferences or something and get people and sign them up one. And newsletters are great because they are genuinely interested in your brand or your topic or your thing. That's great. And you can put lots of information in there, so you can talk about lots of different topics and they can scan through it or whatever they're interested in. That's great. Good. And you can, because it's an email, you can get them to respond to maybe you can have votes on things or get feedback. So that's good. But the difficulty is that, I don't know about you, but when I'm driving, I really find it hard to read newsletters on my phone. I don't know why. I keep throwing things, that's hard. So what about, and so I'm scanning this newsletter in the morning. Maybe it's really interesting. It's my industry too, but I scan a few bits and pieces. It's really hard to get everything through to people, and maybe you get a few minutes with them. And this is where podcasting is just such a great tool for marketers, because you're reaching the audience that really cares because they've subscribed about a particular topic that you are talking about.
Yep.
Great. So in this case, it's marketing and AI. Great. And I can listen safely while I'm driving. A lot of people have more commute time than they have reading time.
For sure.
So when you're in front of a laptop, I don't know about you, Emmanuel, but when you're working, you've got to do some work. You've got to get stuff done. It's pretty of a luxury just to be able to sit there and read. But if I'm commuting, I can easily consume a podcast and listen to your wise words about what's happening in the world. Great, fantastic. So podcasts are a good idea. Let's decide we'll explore that as an option. The trouble is with podcasts is that if you're producing something that is less conversational based and more, news or informational industry trends or something like that, first of all, you've got to research all this stuff. You've got to explore what's going on. You really have to know your industry. Great. That's what we're expecting from you as an expert in the industry. Then you've got to write a script that people are going to be engaged in. And It can't just be news articles. You can't just cut and paste news articles, because when we talk, as you know, it's very different the way we speak compared to the written word. In fact, I'm sure if you look at the transcript of what I'm saying, everyone will be thinking, he can't even really string sentences together, because we speak very differently than we do actually the written word. Okay, so you need a script. Cool. Okay, fine. Great, we've got a script. Then we need someone to actually read it and coherently voice it, with some sort of articulation that people can understand. Yep. And most people can do that. But it takes a bit of practice, and it takes some editing. It takes some, trying one thing after another and repeating sentences until you get it right. And then someone's got to edit the whole thing together to make it sound coherent, which you can do, no problems. And there's some great tools out there to do that. But the problem now is that we've spent some hours creating our content. Now we've created, we've actually recorded it. We've taken an hour or two to record it. Then we've got an hour or two at the back end to actually edit it and turn it into a final product, write the description, do all the other stuff, put a social media post behind it. Now you've got a whole, maybe 6-8 hours to pull together a half hour, 20-minute podcast. You could easily spend that time, right? Now, maybe over time you get more efficient. Maybe you can smash it out in only 4 hours. But that's still a fair amount of time for this tiny little sliver of a little bit of a marketing thing that's going out to a niche audience. So if you are reaching 1 million people, that's no problem. So you're going to have a big team and have lots of people to support that. But if you're reaching a smaller audience, maybe 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, even then it's really hard to justify that amount of time, energy, cost for this small segment of the market. It's very hard to justify that kind of return on investment. And that's where I think things have changed over the last year or so, where we've gone from having to do all these processes by hand, which are considerably time-consuming and frustrating, to now using the power of AI as a force multiplier. So it means we can get more done with less effort.
Sure.
And that gives us the ability to produce things like podcasts now with considerably less effort and hence less cost, which means that for our imaginary, actually not quite imaginary, insurance tech people, they can now reach their audience at a much lower price point than they could before. And so that opens up all sorts of marketing opportunities that before we're just like, we'd love to do a podcast, but it's just too much money for the small amount of people that I'd be reaching. Now you can do it at a much better ratio and reach those people that you couldn't before.
Yeah, I agree. It's beautiful. And, for a long time, we would say, well, the blog is the hub of your marketing, and social and email are the spokes, and then became video is the hub, right? And now I truly have found that it's podcast guesting and podcast hosting that is the hub of that content wheel now. And I am absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of content that I can produce and my team can produce from a single podcast. Right, we'll take this 20 minutes, we'll transcript it with ClipScribe. We'll take that transcript and then build the blog post, right? And then you Opus Clips the video, and then you've got shorts, which are getting 40 times as many views as the long form video.
Yep.
Right. So and then then you're going to produce, take the transcript, you can put it through Chat or Claude or something and produce 25 short pieces that will be the captioning for social, right? So we have, as you're describing, it's like, yeah, we have this amazing tool now, podcast guesting and hosting, that allows us to be an SME, a subject matter expert, and very easily produce a month's worth of content from very little time, and then pushing it over to the tools.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal change, which means that for smaller organizations, for smaller companies, it gives them the ability to reach a much wider audience in a way that they would just have dreamed of a few years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine you're in a small company and you just wish you had these multi-million-dollar budgets to be able to produce great content on a regular basis and have regular great guests and organize a whole studio and get the recording done and have great content recording people and editors and graphic designers. All those capabilities sound amazing, but for a smaller organization, it's very hard to justify that. But now, as a small team, as a small number of people, you can produce phenomenal quality content in a way that was just not possible only a few months ago. It seems like the whole world has changed in the last year, Emmanuel. I can't believe it's only been a year and a half or so that we've had this whole revolution of AI changing the way we do business. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, the Gen AI really is amazing, and that is just in our industry, right? I mean, the AI tools that are being developed in medical and legal and other industries are equally as impactful. But yeah, this revolution of AI has produced a lot of leverage if we can use it that way, rather than getting sucked into it and having it be a time suck, right?
Well, that's the challenge, right? It's a lot of fun as well, so you can end up wasting a lot of time. But I think if you focus it on trying to solve the problems where you're spending time that it can substitute for that time that you would otherwise spend doing these tasks,
yep.
You can use that to accelerate what you're doing and increase the reach that you're getting for the content that you're creating, and actually produce surprisingly good results. Despite the fact that this is a relatively new technology. It's phenomenal how that real step change has happened in the last little bit. One of the things we're doing with the actual voicing of the podcast itself. So if you're an organization that produces, for example, a newsletter on a regular basis, so we do this for some of the councils here in Australia. So they have a regular newsletter that comes out, tells you about all the events that are happening in the local council area. There's there's barbecues going on. There's drives for charity. There's events happening. There's all sorts of things going on in the local community, and they want to get the information out to people in a way that gets them involved and engaged and makes them feel part of the local community. It's great.
Yep.
And what we found is that they send out a newsletter, and they often print the newsletter as well and have it around town. But it's very difficult to get all that information across to people in a way where they really are aware of the breadth of the things that councils are doing for the local community. Yeah. And we've found that when we're working with them on creating a podcast for them, so what we do is actually we take the newsletter itself. They produce the newsletter as usual, and then we use AI to take the newsletter, turn it into a podcast script.
Nice.
So great. So that's something that they would love to do themselves, but just don't have the budget and time for. Okay, so now we have a script. That's great. Then we actually get the AI to do a revision of the script to make it kind of streamline the flow, give it a bit of continuity in terms of different sections of what's happening.
Yeah.
Now, because it's a council government organization, they want to make sure that it all makes sense. That's fair enough. So we have a review process where they check out what's happening in the script to make sure it matches, all the dates are right and all the things are true and all that kind of stuff. That's great. Normally it's like a couple of words they want to adjust because everyone wants to kind of adjust words when they see them in front of them.
Sure.
That's great. And then what we do then is we actually take that podcast, we actually voice it using AI as well. Nice. And so now we can create a quality voiceover that is as good as a human voiceover, give or take. Humans make mistakes as well. AI makes mistakes, makes different kind of mistakes. But on average, we can actually produce a very, very good quality result. And then we take that audio recording of the voice, we mix it with music, and we fade in, we fade out. We have all the kind of intros and outros, that kind of thing. Then we normalize the audio to make it sound good across the range of the actual recording itself. And then we get the AI to look at the podcast script and create a description and a title. And then we upload it into a podcast distribution system. And so from beginning to end, we now, within a number of minutes, have been able to produce a really high quality podcast that the council can now stand behind, be proud of, advertise and talk about, which reaches people in a new way. So sure, people love the newsletters and want to find out what's happening. That's great. But if it pops up on my phone and I'm listening to it on my computer in between my marketing AI podcast, I can find out what's happening in the local community in 5-10 minutes. Yeah, and it's got all the key information. Like nothing, it doesn't go into amazing detail because you wouldn't want to just sit there talking forever. But enough information where you go, I know that thing. That sounds interesting to me. I'm going to find out more about it. And so it gives them such a reach to people that are not necessarily reading the newsletters in their email anymore, because email is becoming more and more challenging to get hold of people.
For sure.
But it gives them a chance to actually get hold of that content, consume it in a way that matters to them, and makes them feel it's a seamless experience, part of the rest of the podcast that they're listening to. And it feels professional and enough quality that it doesn't stand out as something that seems like a dinky little thing that someone's done on the side. It really sounds totally professional and part of something that's something they can be proud of.
Yeah,
and so that's been quite effective for some of the councils that we've been working with here in Australia.
I love it because you're repurposing that content and making it accessible to people who want a time shift, right? So that's a brilliant use of it. If let's just for a second say I'm a small organization, I want to do some work internally first to see if we can make the podcast happen. What are kind of the first couple of steps you'd recommend to get into the podcast arena?
Look, we are constantly encouraging people to get into podcasts and helping them with that journey. It's I think it's an exciting time to be able to use technology to reach people. And it's funny because podcasts, I don't know, there's something about the voice, the listening, that we are still humans are still very passionate about listening and hearing speech, right. Which I think is really quite fascinating, that even in 2024 with all our video options, and we obviously love video as well, but we still care about hearing words audibly. And that alone is amazingly attractive to us still.
Yeah.
And so we're always encouraging people to come on this journey of podcasting. Partly, I think it's good to get into it and then realize how hard it is. That's part of it.
Yeah.
But still, there is absolutely a joy in recording something and being able to edit it and come up with a pretty decent result by yourself. And some great tools out there. So you grab a USB microphone from Amazon for $50 and plug it in and start recording on a tool like Reaper or one of the other audio recording tools that's relatively low cost or free. Record that, then you can edit out the bits where you've made a mistake, string it all together. You can go to a site like Artlist or Motion Array to download some licensed music that you can use for your podcast. Slap that in as well, edit it around, normalize it a bit, play with a few things, watch a few YouTube videos to learn how to use it. And, it's a really fun, exciting result where you can then share this thing you've created that it can inform and engage people. So we always love seeing people start on that journey. And some companies get into it so much they set up their own studio and buy real equipment and really engage in that as a medium. And I think for us who make podcasts, anyone that we can encourage to get into podcasting, the growth of the podcasting industry generally is important to us as well. So we love starting people on that journey. The stats for 2024 are pretty clear that there'll be more than 400 million podcast listeners in the world in 2024.
Right.
More than any other year. It's grown every single year since the beginning, which just think about that. I can't think of any other industry that's kept growing every single year since its inception. Yeah. And that's because of that reach of the convenience, being able to listen to it when you want to, being able to dive into a particular niche that you care about it might just be, okay, I'm visiting a place. I want to hear about this place. So I'll find some podcasts about the place I'm visiting, or some topic I have to solve a marketing problem, so I'm going to go and investigate marketing podcasts, or I want to investigate a piece of technology, or what's happening in this industry.
Yeah,
almost anything you can think of, someone out there is making a podcast about this topic, and probably many people, which is great.
Yeah.
And I think that there is also something charming about that. Natural authenticity, and you're capturing it on these podcasts as well when you're genuinely talking to people and finding out what they have to say. But that sense of that humanity of human speaking, it has an emotional drive that it's just not possible through other means. So I think it's a very exciting time.
Yeah, I agree, and I think what's most fascinating about podcasting is that most podcasts, are not even going to make it past 7 or 8 episodes, number one. And the ones that do, they're not monetizing the way Joe Rogan does, right? So there's a certain amount of, as you described, the creative urge that's being fulfilled, because it is for the joy of being that subject matter expert, or diving into a topic.
Exactly.
and figuring out how to use the tools. But I want to ask you about how you coach businesses to generate their content calendar, and how they pick what they talk about or who they invite, and a little bit about that structure. If I'm just starting day one and I'm an insurance agency, what are my first 10 episodes?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So when you're thinking about a podcast, there's always this. People normally have some topic or something that they really want to have a say about, and they make an episode, and that's great. Except then they get to the next episode, they're like, "Oh, what am I going to talk about now?" That was the thing that I wanted to talk about.
Right.
And so we always say that most podcasts don't make it past 12 episodes.
Right.
So it turns out that longevity is difficult with podcasting. It's a challenge to keep doing it. That relentlessness actually matters. And in order to get there, in order to break through that kind of 8-10 kind of episode, I think you're right about, you really need a bit of an arc, a bit of a story arc that covers from when you start to probably about a 10-12 episodes, and that's the kind of 10-12 number is the kind of in our heads we can kind of get our heads around how we can break that up, because in the beginning, you want to set the scene for where the industry's at, what's happening, what is the landscape like. So you might have 2 or 3 episodes on the landscape. Who are different players? What's happening? What's going on? What matters? What are the issues at the moment? Then you'd have 3 or 4 episodes where you're talking about, okay, well, how do we come to be here? What is the history in which we ended up in this particular place? Because now we've set the scene. How do we get there? What is the kind of transition to the place we're at? Then the next 3 or 4 episodes, you might talk about the challenges that we're now in the landscape that we're in right now for this particular industry. What are we facing? What do we need to change? What's difficult? Where are companies struggling? Where are companies succeeding?
Yeah.
And then the last 3 or 4, you'll be talking about, okay, so now we've established that arc. Okay, so where do we go to next? What is the next kind of step change in terms of the industry? Where are we looking forward to? Where do we look forward to in the next few years? What things will be different after that time?
Yeah.
And then even at that point, you've got a dozen episodes where you've basically planned out. And if you're having a guesting podcast, great. You'd want to find guests that kind of fit in those sort of topics. Now, people will string this together in their own minds as they're listening to these podcasts. They'll go, "Oh yeah, I see right. What you're doing there. I see how you set the scene. I see how now you've told me how we're getting get there. I see how you talk to me about the challenges, and I see you're looking at the future now." And that arc we always seem to, as humans, we always want to try and string things together to make a story out of them. We are story beings, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so if we can pull those things together to make a story out of it, then you've got that continuity, you've got that connectedness between the episodes, and you've got that link that goes, but now I want to find out what happens next, because it's not just a random thing. It's like I know there's more.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like a mini hero's journey of the company.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
I love it. Well, that's a beautiful process. I love that, Ian. Yeah.
So I think with most things, we want to capture both that inspiration of wanting to do something and being creative. Great, you should absolutely do that. Absolutely do that. Use that creative urge, use that passion, use that desire to create something. And I think it's a beautiful part of us as humans. But beyond that, you kind of need to take a step back and go, okay, but what is the story I'm trying to tell overall? Yeah. What is the message that I'm trying to get to my audience? And it depends on the industry, and depends on the topic. It could be fly fishing. It could be you're trying to work on sales processes or technology in some area. But in any case, there's always a story with humans. Yeah. And if you can find out what that story is and start to tell that through those episodes, then you've got a series. You've got a series at that point. That's great. A dozen episodes. Yeah. You're a real podcaster at that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I love that. I love that story arc through the episodes, and I think that's the real nugget for people who are listening and they haven't started a podcast yet. It is a beautiful and very functional way to get message to target audience. It's a great way to prospect by interview. So it's a very nice marketing tool to be able to reach out to people. And it is a gift to have these conversations with, for me to have this conversation with you halfway around the world on a Monday for me and a Tuesday for you, right?
That's right.
And we wouldn't be having it otherwise. So there's a lot of benefits. Plus you have a massive amount of content.
Absolutely.
Lifetime.
And then with all that content, you can do all amazing creative things and utilize that in many different ways. So it gives that amazing reach and ability to reach all those people in wherever they are, which is great.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I think we could probably have a conversation for another 3 hours, but I got to let you get on with your day. How do people get in touch with you if they want to talk about podcasting and about hiring it out rather than trying to do it themselves?
Yeah, if you want to have with your podcasting or some advice on getting started, we'd love to hear from you. If you hit us up on our website, www.pulsepodcasts.com. There's a contact us form there. We'd love to hear from you. We would love to help you on your podcast journey one way or another, because we think it's great for the industry and we'd love to be involved.
Well, Ian, thank you very much for your time and your insights into the podcasting and storytelling today. I appreciate it greatly.
Emmanuel, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Thanks. You have a good day.
You too. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.